Hello? Ah, now it's working. What the fuck is happening? Sorry, we are like scuffed stream. Jesus Christ. Okay, hello. Good. Hello, everybody. We're a bit late. I need to order food because I forgot to buy some. So, talking about food. Like, I ordered food and I ordered it at the same place I always order food at the moment. And usually they need like a few minutes to deliver to me after the food is done. But for some reason today they need like an hour. And then they had the audacity of well, what does audacity mean? But they didn't notify me that because I usually drink Cola Light, that they don't have any light. They only have zero. Would have been nice to know beforehand because I would have taken something else to drink. But hey, it's to the best of us, right? And then we after that I ate and I ordered tiramisu, and the tiramisu was frozen. We did it once before and it was frozen, but like it was frozen again, and that makes me pissed off because, well, I ate basically half frozen tiramisu when they delivered it to me, right? So yeah. That's that, and I love tiramisu. I'm like a huge sucker for that. Other than that, I did like a lot of stuff today. Did a little bit of sports. That stuff, you know. So anyway, how's everyone doing? I think the music is aptly loud. At least for me, it's a bit too loud. So I did the one thing that I did not want to do, and I upgraded to Windows 11. And now everything is different, and I do not like it. I become an old man. The only thing that has changed is that somehow error message of mine is patched away, and I do not know where it went. Because like the Windows was looking for a driver that I uninstalled in like an optimization process, and I could not get that message to go away. It's nothing bad. It's like it was like an instinct to like, just click it away, right? Like the 10 other things that pop up on my screen when I start my PC, especially like Steam and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I mean, it's Windows 11. It's like I work with it every day. Like I need to do it, and now I did. That's a main thing. What's really annoying is like the new main menu. I don't like it because it's so much like, you know what the new menu is with like the new start menu. Like it reminds me of the time when like during what was it, Windows 8, where they made the entire interface to be like a mobile phone, right? Because they had like the Windows phones and stuff like that. So they wanted to make everything unique in that regard, and that's how it looks right now as well. When like you sit here with a mouse and keyboard, you cannot see it right now because I'm only showing my window, but I'm sitting here with a mouse and keyboard, and I have like these like subgroup of programs. I refuse to call them apps. Or like computer programs, where like or applications that are like sorted in like squares of 4, and some of them do not make sense. For example, now I have like for example, I have music, right? And under music, Audacity is like listed. Doesn't matter, right? It does not make any sense, right? Spotify makes sense. Then under games, there's like Solitaire. And then there's like the EA browser. And Osu. And then like under creativity, there's like the photo app listed. It's not creativity, it's photos. It's weird. And then like I have, wait, WhatsApp? I don't know what I started there. I accidentally clicked on WhatsApp and now there's like a bar. Am I going to die? I don't know. We will find out later. So anyways, I forgot to turn on my light and that fucks up my tracking. I don't know why, but the backlighting really has my tracking. Okay. So, we need to do a little bit more writing today, right? We're doing like 3 hours. The writing will be like a little bit. We need to focus on a few different things. So let's do for part 4. Let's review what we have. So we've done like a bit of the main heritages, if you want to call them that. I don't want to call them races. I call them species. It's more fitting. We had like the main stuff done on like most of them. I've added one thing under like Icacero, who was like, oh yeah, I have an idea for the for dwarves, how they repopulate, and I like the idea that they made machines where like where 2 dwarves put their genetics in and it will produce an egg, right? An artificial like offspring to keep like genetics like clean, right? There's also I've only written like this for halflings, goblins, and gnomes. And then we have done nothing on gods and religions. Like this is like the same as last time. These are still the same, and the unity is also still the same. We also, under places, have the Mirror Belt and Haven still. And under law, I have only added the planes in general. I'm not 100% sure if I keep them that way. This is just like random words written on a piece of paper, right? And then we have the Aether. I just defined the Aether in my free time. So we have like a oily liquid, radiates strongly when close by, and weaker the further it is away. Warps matter around it. I think can warp matter around it is better. Enriches the air to a point of non-lethality, but takes a lot of distance. So, this is better. So it enriches the air with aether particles, which are not lethal, but it takes a long distance. So you cannot have like basically this explains the magic in the world, right? It becomes So it can be enriched or refined, and then it becomes a power source, which in my opinion the idea would be that the process, if you have like aether, right, and you use it and that aether is used as a power source, it should definitely make the process less dangerous. Like it should make it like less dangerous in general, because if I think about like, okay, they use it for, because later replacement for gunpowder, right? If they're like aether powered guns, they need like a refined state that they don't die when they're near it, or don't mutate it when using it. Same with like lamps and stuff like that, right? But it makes it less potent, so you cannot radiation poison someone as well, right? You cannot use it as like a the trade-off is you have less power out of the you gain less power out of the aether, but it is more manageable. Control versus power, right? Heavy on the mortar, very important to me, because I don't want if the aether flood happens, right, and the liquid would be lighter than water, the entire ocean would be drowned in aether, and I think that's a bit much. In theory, a transparent liquid that captures light into a warm white glow in sunrise. So yeah, it's like how the sky splits the sky. Basically, how the ozone layers split the sky or the light, where like the sunlight is split up, and that's why the sky is blue during the day. That's how I imagine it working with aether. In theory, it's like a liquid, but it saves light very well, and it turns into like a warm white glow, like a warm. Basically, if I look behind me on my living room light, like a very warm yellow is more what I imagine it. I don't imagine it as blue, even though many people would think blue would be the right color because magic. But I don't know if blue is the right color for this. I can imagine the guys looking like down from Haven and seeing like these like magma-esque radiation spots instead of like everything looking like water, or like more like acrylics, you know. I don't know. Aether particles in the air can be formed into spells, swapping reality through gestures, incantations, and the like. So that's how I imagine spellcasting to work. Basically, you have aether around you and inside of you that you feel, and that you basically can form by using your powers, right? It's a replacement for gunpowder. That should be obvious. So we don't have gunpowder weaponry. We have aether weaponry. Also like in general, right? Like there is gunpowder, but it is less efficient. I think I should add that. There is gunpowder. Oops. But it is less efficient / convenient. And then aether is the essence of the god seeping into the material. This is what like the scientific consensus on the aether should be. If it's like something different entirely, like I don't know, the blood of a dead god or something like that, but I don't know, we have not defined that yet. But like that is what the general person thinks, right? Aether is just the essence of gods bleeding into the material. At least that's my idea of this. But yeah, that's how I defined it. Again, it could be that we jump to some art later, like during the stream. So we will see. We have like a few things we can like do or define. We could define the mirror belt a bit better. The mirror belt being like the center of like this like very very like silent, like not much windy seas that are hard to traverse, and what happened there. But I also would love to go into like some lore of the other different species, especially like these three, because we have not defined these at all, except for like we also have not talked about the Heritage War, by the way. We should talk about that as well. Maybe we should talk about the Heritage War before we go into anything else. So timeline, Heritage War, right? We should. Heritage War and subsequent emancipation of the elves, right? No. Heritage War we make later. Emancipation of the elves. The elves should be the free ones first, and they should like rile shit up, right? So Heritage War should be Age of Kingdoms, right? Yeah. Heritage War. Okay. Let's do lore, and let's do one thing. We add a site. Page. Heritage War. We need to sort these later, by the way. So, let's ask the questions. Who? What? No, let's start with the first. Is who, when, what, why. Those are like wer, wie, was, wo. And how, of course. So, we have the dynasty orcs. The rebel factions among the orcs. We have the Colo. Let's call them Gnolls. Later Colo. We have the gnomes and goblins. Do we have someone else? Do we have the dwarves as well? I think so, right? And the elven. I need to do something before I forget, because like OBS was like reset earlier. Just need to listen to how it sounds. Sorry. Just need to listen to how it sounds. Yeah, okay, it's fine. And then the elven kingdoms. When did it happen? So we agreed on, what was it, 800? Let's do timeline. Yeah, 800 BAF. And we have 800 300 BAF. Start. Finish shortly before. Did we say the heritage was like everything was like 500 years, right? It was like a 500 year period. Finished shortly before 300 BAF. This is like now working with times and stuff like that is always like difficult to me, which is why I want to link the timelines for all of this shit. So what happened? I know it's a 500-year war. That's way too long. But it's like the start, right? What happened? So I will kick the Hao out. But what I will do is aftermath. I like to write the aftermath. So what happened? Easy. Elves saw the Orc dynasties as a dynasties still as a really big threat. They decided to get to unify the Orcish underclass together with their subjugated societies into a rebel group. So this is like the main thing. The elves should like elves and orcs should not like each other, not because because fantasy races need to hate each other, but they hate each other because the elves were like, okay, let's fuck around with the orcs. Like, let's make everyone independent. Why is like for the elves, like elves definitely freedom to so because of the elven emancipation, right, and the first elven vampire, it's like they had like the vampiric elven genocides before. So it would be wise, let's think here. Freedom to, research and develop their society, their freedom to expand and also not be attacked. Everyone else served as a good distraction, I would say. While the elves themselves saw a bigger benefit in other equals rather than the orcs as like a soul as a soul partner, you know. So there's like also something more partnerships means more access to knowledge. So the elves are still like in the idea in that phase of the timeline where they're like 100% sure, yeah, okay, our god did that to us, and we need to find out a way how to solve this, right? So like having like a longer living species like them, because they all die at 50, right? They all flat out die at 50. So having someone else who lives like longer and have them assist, especially the goblins and gnomes with attack at that point in the timeline, would be like invaluable to them, right? That is like the idea. Also, basically they have like, they're doing them a solid, right? Elves did the others solid. I think that's what the elves banked on. No. Yeah, the subjugated, by the way, let me guess, I think that it's subjugated, right? Let me use my research browser so you don't see like a half website. Subjugat, you know, subjugat, subjugated, freedom, orc rebels, downfall of a system. They were born into, but could not get out of. Even though like the modern orc still has like a very pragmatic view of like, I'm born into this and I live there. This is like, imagine you're like born into, basically into slavery, right? And that's where you live for the rest of your existence. Kind of dab. Other than that, okay. Let's go back. What else happened? The elves riled up some orcs. Those orcs started freeing the gnolls, and groups of goblins and gnomes, right? It's funny that they're like all three are like written with a G, but yeah. Due to expert knowledge, I see the dynasty orcs a bit like the orcs in the dynasties, a bit like, oh yeah, it is what it is, like very, very conservative in terms of like, it has always been that way and that's why it's good. Not necessarily out of like, oh, they're stupid, right? But like, as like, oh yeah, we have like all these subjugated people and they have our mindset. While they do not, right? Obviously they do not. They don't have like this ingrained thinking of like, oh yeah, I'm born into this position because of my blood, right? And so all of the expert knowledge, they did not need to know that, right? So the expert knowledge of architecture and technology made it very easy for the goblins and made it very easy for the rebels to basically attack and take over settlements. And then, of course, the counterpoint to that is like, all of a sudden, oh, dude, we lost like 2 settlements. What the fuck happened, right? Elves get, quote unquote, where the elves get basically dragged into the conflict. I will put it in quotation marks because they are not getting dragged, right? They're the instigator, but basically they get dragged into the conflict and need to fully support one side now. They obviously help the rebels. So basically, the orcs and the orcs and the elves fight, right? Because, well, that's what they did for the last 1,000 years, right? I think I think the elves just get dragged into this, even though their numbers are still like very, very low, right? 200 years is not much. Like, not much at all, right? And yeah, it's like, oh, okay, this is fine, right? They get dragged into the war, and they obviously have the rebels. And so this is now the third war the orcs and the elves have been in. So the Orc Empire gets dismantled more and more, and now we have like the problem with because like there's like so many people rebelling all of a sudden, and now distrust grows into the Orcish dynasties. So now the dynasties are like second guessing themselves and like saying, okay, is this right? We are losing tremendously. So if it's our God-given right to basically be superior, why are we losing this, right? And this happens over the next centuries. Like the next 2 centuries, I could see basically like being, oh yeah, this country is now free. This country is now free, right? Basically what happened in like with like many of the USSR, right? Where like many of the nations are like slowly splitting off, and that makes new conflicts. And yeah. Now we have the question again. I think we answered it last time we were on the timeline. We said humans are basically know what happened in the Aether Flood, right? That we agreed on last time, that humans are came during the Aether Flood, right? But Heritage War already happened, so we still don't know 100% when humans came. But we're getting to that. So now we have the greatness that is So this is like the next thing, the next step. The subfactions are now fighting with each others, and now like these slaves are now starting to free civilizations again, right? So you have even more nobles, more dwarves, more elves. You have basically all of these subfactions which are now fighting each other. And I think with this war, it's not that it has an official start and end. I don't think so. I think it doesn't have an official start and end, because basically what happens during the Heritage War is they fight each other, and then after they fought each other, they basically, like, many of the dynasties dispersed, and some of the dynasties went into like hiding, right? So like they this was like gradually, right? Gradually. I think I make that bold. Dynasties went into hiding or dispersed. There was no official end to the Heritage Wars. If we pick one, because many like historical things are like, oh yeah, where it's like so gradual, it's like, okay, this is like the official date where it makes sense, right? So the official end was when the Turkish Emperor of the we think about dynasties later. So basically there's like a date where like the emperor says, okay, these are over. Like we are not like one folk anymore. We are like different dynasties now. We need to act among each other. Basically like done out of necessity, right? Done out of necessity to preserve the lineage and prevent potential assassination. I think that is like that is like one of the main things, right? Like they would like try to kill the emperor to maybe regain I will do empress because I'm not sure. Just so like someone else takes over and tries to reunite, so they just step down and say, okay, everyone is independent. And we say it's circa, what do we say, 300, yeah, let's say 320 BAF. Like then, like you have like 20 whole years where the dynasties are like, okay, fuck it, we're doing our own thing and restructuring, and then like the colos become basically that. And the aftermath is very clear. All dynasties disperse or go into hiding. The subjugated are freed and live independent of their captors, rebuilding the things that were lost, but with a cooperative approach. And then we have Colo Knowles renaming themselves Colo, right? That's like the last one. I think that is basically what happens in the Heritage War, like very, very like concise, right? You could go into like, okay, who fought who and where and stuff like that, but we now know we're like now a piece of law that we can like always go back to, because that's like 500 years of history. That's a very long time. Again, that's double the length that America has existed. It's like a very long time history-wise. And like, again, gradual process. Like, today this one rebelled, tomorrow this one rebelled. I need to just check out my 3D print for just 1 second and I'll be back in like 10 seconds. Okie doke. I am back. So, now we need to do something very, very, very special. Because now we can go into like more what the races do and stuff like that. But I want to think about something before we go into that. And that something is maps. Right? And we have now just random things. But I want to do a world map. At least like try one, right? I want to try a world map. And now I'm opening a program, which I have not done in a while. And I hope it just works. Wonder Drafts. Here's Wonder Draft. So, Wonder Draft. I don't even know version up to date. Really? 1 second. Okay. Apparently that's the latest release of Wonder Draft. Okay, so Wonder Draft, right? I would show you what Wonder Draft does. It's we just take the map size it does. I will live with that. And we say I can take this Seldorine, which is like one of my maps. I'll take this one, right? Just like to show you what it looks like. So this is like the general map it generates. And there's a mapping tool. You can do stuff like this, right? It's like just for like painting landmasses and stuff. I think if I take my brush. And of course there's also water. The problem is if you do this, right? With this like preset, and say you can, by the way, generate landmasses. I'm looking where it was. Just for shits and giggles. Right. Like this, and all of a sudden, bam, landmass, right? Very cool. It's a very powerful tool if you use it right, wisely. I usually draw them myself. We can do roughness and detail a bit up, and say the water level is lower. And you see it does it live. It's a very good tool. I love it. And then we generate just a new one. Boom. Right? And then you have like a continent. You can like draw around and do stuff with it however you want. The cool part is that if you go with like water level a bit higher, you can actually like make multiple islands, which is nice. But yeah, the idea is discard. Let's do Ultra HD. And just use Terra. I don't know what Terra is. Terra Earth? Oh my god, it is. Oh god. Just show me landmass, please. Oh. That's a bit much, I think. New discard. Give me 4K, and then there's like one that is like really good. What did I pick for Seldorine? Was I smart back then? Oh yeah, that is good. I love this. Okay. World is like the thing where you can just generate. Warming up the hamster. So if you do this, you can like generate a number of continents, right? I usually like to do this if when I just need inspiration, which I right now need. And then I go and work on some other stuff, right? For example, what I do sometimes is like just fuck around with the water levels a little bit. And then we find out what we can do with this. Let's make it a bit more detailed and make it a bit more rough. I like it a bit more rough and a bit more detailed, usually. I like when like the map is just like, yeah. The question is, do we want this, right? For example, with my Seldorine map, I think do I have that? Just so you see my Seldorine map. This is the right one. From 2021, by the way. This is like 5-year-olds, right? This is like how my map of Seldorine looked like. And what it did is I did most of the stuff. I'm 100% honest. I also generated first, and then I edited more and more and more in. For example, like what it generated me was actually this. And I found this so cool that I made it the main thing of my setting, because it looks like a dragon head. This is like what happened, right? And then I just like if I go closer, you may see some edits. I made this a little more round, as you can see here. And the rest I did not touch. And then, like, for example, this one did not have like a canal through, and the rivers I did myself. As you can see, I used the river tool for that. Of course, the mountains and stuff like that. But yeah, like most of it was like actually pre-generated. This content up here, I basically copied it and just edited and pasted it down here to make it like 2 parts that split apart at some point, right? Stuff like this. I should add this to the thing. To the stream title. Stream settings. So we go into mapping. I just want to have like a general outline how like things look, just so I have a reference right now, right? We want to generate a landmass. It just makes sense. And we take worlds because we want a world map right now. Again, a bit rougher. I like the high detail. And we don't want to override the seed, I think. We just generate. And lo and behold, nope, this is bad. Make another one. I can live with this a little bit better, but I want actually a bit more landmass. I know this is more accurate to like a world map, actually, like 0.5, right? But it's like, I think it's like half as much water. No, half as much landmass as water, but I'm not 100% sure, maybe less. I like this already. This starts to be good. Give me a seat. Nope. Way too evenly like split up. 2 mega continents, also nice concept, but do we make 2 mega continents? I like the idea of that. Especially with the dynasties, right? Having the dynasty split up on a continent. Let's generate one more. This is also interesting. Especially if we make the mirror belt this part here. Right? If we make it this part here, then everyone needs to go around basically the mirror belt to basically go anywhere, right? They need to either go like past here and go around here. I like this, actually. I like the idea of 2 mega continents, though. Sounds like wow. Yeah, I mean, yes, I like, but I like it for the world building. Like, if you make 2 mega continents, right? I mean, like Eastern Kingdom's calendar, like it would make sense. Like it just feels better, especially for like imagine you're sitting at a table, right? Or you have like this setting, and I'm DMing it. It's easier to like remember like 2 distinct names instead of like 5, right? It's like easier, but the question is, does it make sense for the setting we have? Because we have now big underground kingdoms already with the gnomes and goblins who are dead. And also we have the we have the orc dynasties. That's the main thing, because since the orc dynasties exist, would they be on different continents? Probably, right? They would not fuck around with each other. They have like a general dynasty they follow, but the other families, they would definitely look for other continents, right? Just to be left alone. And then the elves, especially after their vampirism streak, where they say, oh yeah, we're doing vampirism. It would make sense to have this there. And also the small continents have a very, very big benefit. I can plot like a few islands in here into the mirror belt. And in the mirror belt, since nobody could go there before the ether, the gnomes and goblins, when they do their Manhattan project and blow up the fucking planet, well, they do not blow it up, but they cause the aether flood, right? And like basically start the apocalypse. It makes sense that they're like very centric. The aether vein is that starts everything. So yeah, it would be, yeah. Let's take this one. If I want to do the WoW thing, the Azeroth thing with like 2 major continents, we can like re-edit this. I will do it without my drawing tablet right now because I do not know if it's compatible. So we're not doing this. So we're doing like a few islands down here. Just make them like really small and a bit like random. Just go a little bit around with a brush. You know, like this, but yeah. Just plotting a few islands, nothing special. By the way, Tadrin, did you need to work today? I don't know if the holiday is just North Rhine-Westphalia or if it's Germany-wide. I think that's enough nearly for the islands, right? The gnomes fuck around and find out. Okay. Now we want to have the mirror belts. Let's make a label. What font do we want? Font size 40. And apparently we don't have a color for the font because for whatever reason it's see-through. Let's make it, it's like brownish maybe. And I can still not see it. Why? Thank you. What is the L doing here? The mirror belt. So like last time, we have expanded that the mirror belt is well, two streams ago, right? We said the mirror belt is basically an area where no wind is blowing and the sea is very flat. So we keep it that way. And the mirror belt goes basically through this. And this entire island was undiscovered before that. You could not sail there. You would just flat out die, I think. Okay, the mirror belt. Now, we need the other oceans. So everything in between this is the mirror belt, in our opinion, right? So it was like very difficult with like sailing technology to go like from continent to continent. Let's call this part of the ocean. Well, we give them the other names later. Let's do it like this. Okay, we need other names for continents. This is is there like a name we can give them depending on where they are or what they represent? You know what this looks like? Actually, I will do a little edit of the map, and then I will maybe redo it or something like that. If you look like this, right? Look at this now. If you hear weird sound, it's like the program saving, right? And I'm doing this now. It looks like a cackling witch. You know what? Like ha ha ha. Like this is the mouth, this is the eye, this is like the crooked nose. Like it looks like an actual like cackling witch. Let's call this... Okay, this area, definitely. I have a name for the area. Let's make it a smaller font, 40. This will be the Cackling Coast. I think that is like... This is like a very good name for this. I don't know how to put it, however. We do it like this. But it should be smaller. It should definitely be smaller. 40 is too big. This is better. 30 is better. What do we maybe give the label a curve. I have a T-star in the bottom left. Yeah, I'm looking. Can I curve this? Probably. Yeah. It's good. Right, there's a curvature. Yeah, this is the Cackling Coast. Thank you for the tip. Okay, this is definitely the Cackling Coast. But now we need a name for the continent itself. Do we call this thing? Because, like, for example, right? This looks like a crown for me. Like, I like a bit like, I like a bit like symbolism in my names. I like that very much, actually. So, for example, I would love to have this, like, be called something like, I know it's a dreaded name. That is also very. That is also a very, very specific question. I would not know right now. Actually, that is like the biggest problem, because as of right now, we have not defined the what the allied nations are. We have to find that everyone is like living together because of the apocalypse, basically, in this setting. But other than that, I think if we have a cartographer, then it would be either Elven or it would be Orcish, probably. Because it just makes... Or Colo, like Gnolls. Like, either one of the three, because these are like the big three species that are like present in the setting. So, in theory... Just in theory, it would be probably the orcs, because they were like the predominant species for like basically 2,000 years, right? Like for like forever. If we look at the timeline again, whoops. Basically, like the Orc dynasties came 2,000 years before the Aether Flood, and before that, everyone should have like started cartographing. Because only after they got the Aether tag, like with Project Aether, they started to find out what's really in the Mirror Belt, because they could like only sail there with actual like Aether powered boats and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm thinking about like who would cartograph this. Probably the Orcs. I'm just like flat out saying the Orcs. I think I nailed down with that. That is true. Need maps for proper census, and you need that to levy taxes. Yes. Yeah, I'm outside before ideas. Like if you have ideas and stuff like that, again, like I'm always taking ideas. Makes me think. What would the content mean to the Orcs? I'll be quite a bit. What would this content mean to them? Well, it's also in the northern hemisphere of this planet, right? So the Orcs, in theory, if we go back into the Orcish lore that we have, the Orcs, in theory, have like very like many like sentences, etc., with R, K, and CH, right? And many like O's. Maybe. You know what? You know what would make sense? I'm just like brainstorming. We have not defined the Orcish gods, right? The old gods, basically. What if some of the continents are named a little bit after their gods, right? Like not like the gods, but after them. So what we do is, let's take let's do this. Give me 1 second. So since this is basically like two land masses with this like little strip between them, how about, oh, let's not do this curved. Each continent is their domain of a god. One to the continents is something like Rukun's hunting grounds. Exactly. This is what I'm thinking about. Especially since, is the playlist over already? I was like, whoa. Especially since I was like, okay, the Orcs themselves with the dynasties and stuff like that, they're so into like their superiority and their like status as like, oh yeah, we were like the dominant civilization on this continent and on this world. Let's name it after something, right? And so we take it, for example, 50. Okay, let's name it again, and then we call it Eol's. So we have Miara and Eolch, who are like twin deities. Those two deities as like the patron deities of the Orcs. They should have like these two. Miaras, Eolch. And then we have definitely the other three they had as the old gods. Which are Krukok, Trichok, and Renag. So basically what we're doing is, since Renag is the god of nothingness, we put him in the northernmost continent, right? Let's have him like basically like be the Ice King, quote unquote. Then we have like this one we call Trichok's something, and then we call it Renag's, not Renag's, Krog. Again, I'm just saying, I'm just doing this with the abbreviations or the apostrophes, just to like know which one is which is. I will, okay, so that's, that is very good. Yes, I agree. And you know what I think? That the elves, after the elves, so since the elves were with the orcs like at war for like forever, and the orcs said, okay, you know what? Let's stop this. Well, the elves and the orcs decided to stop this and make have the elves have their own kingdom. The orcs agreed and sent them here. So we have like, we call this the Crown Lands or something like that, which is like the elven thing for the time being. And then we switch Eolch and Miara. Frick. Super label. Nope. Go away. Okay. We switch them to this. And them to this. Because those are the newer gods and those are the older gods. If I can maybe move this. Hello. This is a very good suggestion. Because this is like basically the start of this of the Orcish dynasties, and then we have the lower lands here. This is good suggestion. So let's take these ones. We call it Korokna because I don't want everyone to like have a stroke basically saying the names. And we call it like this we call Tero Choka. Then we go into Miara, and Miara will be Miara Sin, and Eolch will be definitely I have an idea for that as well. Use linguistics. NR is the suffix to designate. Right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this one will be very easy because we do it like this. Very close to my name, but pick something else if that sounds the samey. I think it does not sound too samey, right? Like, I know that everything has a na at the end, but yeah. Just like as an example, right? We get into the details better later, like a bit more details. This is just to serve that we have locations and we know where to locate things. Because as of right now, we don't have anywhere to like settle anything. We have made concepts, but they don't exist anywhere yet. Except for the Mirror Belt. We knew that this was like in the ocean and there's like a lot of islands. We need to, however, think about the smaller things. Those are not continents. I think they belong to the continents. It just makes sense. These up here, I do not know what to do with them. Or if I even keep them or delete them. These will stay. These were like nearly perfect. I think I will make this landmass a bit smaller. Because otherwise, yeah. At least a tiny bit. Like more like this instead of like this giant size. Just very carefully like cutting out stuff. Like this, right? And the big one just goes. Like this, right? I know I like polar regions right now. This is my biggest problem right now with this map. Again, I have to be like very clear. I generated this up like with this tool for the start, and I said I would like actually like yeah, I get rid of these because I need to add polar regions, and then this map is like loaded enough. The question with the polar regions is how or where do we enter them? So basically this is like the map at the moment, right? Very good question right now. The problem with tectonics is, right? Exactly. This is like my main problem. I think in prehistoric times, since we have only like 2,000 years of history, right? Exactly. I feel like that as well. They were definitely a mega continent, right? They were like a mega continent, and I think these were also a mega continent. I think these fit together. That basically Renar and Korokna basically broke apart, and that formed the Cackling Coast. Again, I'm so happy that RNG gave us like this like basically cackling looking witch. I really like that. But so I would definitely think yes, but like polar regions, right? This is like the next problem. How big are the poles? Or not Laughing Goblin or something like that, right? I was like thinking with like the classic witch, right? With like I'm just doing this again. I will delete this, right with this, like as a nose, but yeah. The question is also, for example, does this planet have only 1 or 2 moons or more moons? Does it have an asteroid belt around it, right? Those are like also questions we have not talked about until this point. We go into astrophysics from that. How many suns does it have, right? This is like all factoring in how like tectonics would also form and behave to some degree. Especially like flood and stuff like that. Also, like a planet with 2 suns has like smaller, less ice caps, because just like because of the generated heat, depending on like the distance, of course. But if we had like 2 suns, this would be like way more awful than we have right now. I mean, it's warm as shit right now outside, but imagine if we have 2 suns, right? But yeah, you're absolutely like you're all absolutely correct, right? If I do say polar regions, right? Because they cover a massive part of the globe, right? They're like absolutely huge. If we just as like an example, because I need to paint them, right, somehow, just to show you, if the crown lands are very close to the poles, how about I draw them like this? So basically this. Yo. So if I make them this scale, right? Not much, trying to get my mapping straight. If I take these as like the sizes, right, for the poles, would it look better or worse? No, if I do this, the world would be like this, right? It would be like diagonal spinning. I mean, it works. Like, it would be just like a 90-degree tilt. No, 45-degree tilt, right? Like, from the map point of view. Like, if I take everything and tilt it a bit, then we have, like, the same proportions. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. So yeah, I'm just doing like a little bit of like a world building stream where where I try to like plan out my Pathfinder setting for my next Pathfinder campaign, and I'm like at the moment at like the mapping stage. So hey, thank you for joining, even though I only had 0 views. So if you're interested in that, you can join and discuss and stuff like that. The guys on Twitch are also helping. Is there a reason? Is there an express reason why polar region is necessary? I tend to skip including a landmass at the poles if the planet is indeed round. I think we are having a round planet. I think I want to have a round planet. I think like a disc world or something like that would also be interesting, but this throws like even more problems in, which we have to like settle around. And I think having it being round makes a bit more sense with the entire world getting like, or the land masses getting flooded by liquid aether, when like someone in the middle just like basically fires off the Manhattan Project and does a chain reaction, right? That it spills to the surface. Because again, like we have like also giant underground kingdoms, which we have not mapped here, of course, but like where they don't exist technically anymore in that regard. But because they're flooded. But yeah. Let's keep out the poles. Why not? You know what? Let's leave them out for the time being. And again, if in hindsight I want to add them, I can add them. Again, this is work in progress. Why am I getting so worked up about this? You're absolutely right. So we keep the continent names. I move them up a bit just to be able to properly decide what is what, right? Or what does what. Do we want to name the other oceans? I'm not 100% sure if we want that right now. Because at the moment they don't serve any relevancy. They will at some point when we talk about like, okay, how was trade done before we were able to sail the Mirror Belt? But yeah. I'm just doing like quickly colors, landmasses, colors. Let's paint them. So let's do the quick thing and just decide, okay, just generally, how is like everyone, every continent like done like with like sand, grass, desert, you know. Let's do it like this. So, of course, Rinna as like the continent of like the god of nothingness is mainly ice, right? Just make it like icy. And like when it goes to the south, we make it a bit more like sandy. Again, this is just like very generalistic. I'm not like, we're not going into like, oh, what is like the accurate. I make like a bit more like southern, like frick. That was a bit much. A bit more like foresty in the south. It's way too much. See, I'm not used to like penning with the mouse anymore. I'm like, I need my stylus, dude. And then it gets like basically cold up here. I could see like a mountainscape going through this, right? And then basically that like splitting off what is like ice and what is becoming like those big luscious forests. Basically like this. Just as like a wall. Again, very, very rudimentary and very, very rough sketching of what we want to do. The Crownlands should definitely be something like that you would expect in terms of like, oh yeah, it's like very hot there, but the elves made it work. So I can imagine something like very like luscious towards the coastline. Crownlands, yes. Very more like forest-like. And then you have like towards the north of it a bit more like deserty, right? So it's like I imagine myself like I imagine it a little bit like the Nile region, where like most of it is desert, but everything close to like the Nile is of course alive. So when we get to like rivers and stuff like that, I would love to have like a few rivers like actually existing in here that give like this like luscious greenness, right? Again, this is just general like doodling. Oh fuck, whoop. Just general stuff. No detail. I just need locations. I know I'm repeating myself, I'm very sorry. But also, hello, sad French fries. Like this, right? I just imagine this. So now we have like the other ones, the twin continents, Eolchina and Mia Rosina. Those should be, I think, opposites, but the same, right? Just like as an idea. Like opposites, but the same. I imagine it like this a bit, where it's like they fit together. They're like two sides of the same coin, right? So while this one is again a bit more sand-like, right? This other one is the opposite, where it's like, okay, a bit more sandy and less foresty, while the other one is foresty. Where is it? Again, just general, just for orientation. It's a fantasy map. Well, in theory, fantasy, right? It's like still Aetherpunk, but grass. Give me grass. Like this. And then we have this one is definitely mostly desert, right? We have like so this needs to be 100%. We need like a dedicated like big desert area. More desert. And then it gets like into less, a bit like grass here, where like most of the people settled, I feel like. And once it goes up to the Cackling Coast, I see it becoming more mountainous and more icy, right? So we would do it like this. Like more mountain areas, more ice. The islands in the middle are definitely tropical. These I keep as these as well up to this point. Maybe I changed something about this. But like this is like the general colors, I think. We have like enough green mass to say, okay, there's like life there. I can also go a little bit deeper into this. Just so like the orcish lands are like a little bit more... a little bit more green. And this is like how the land masses should look. If we do like editing on that, we do it later. I just need it right now. Let me move that here. That here. That here. Especially the names are important because those will be used in our writing, right? Let's save this as like just documents. No, it needs to go into pictures. New maps. I need a new maps SECO folder. Okay. And then we say SECO work in progress. Saved. And we keep that in the background. I will close it for the stream right now so you can we see text. I don't know why my browser became smaller. It's bizarre. Go onto the screen. Thank you. So now that we have like a few names, now we can like also define a few other things. First of all, where's everyone coming from? So these are the main... I called them species because they are not civilizations anymore in this setting, right? They are living basically together because the apocalypse happened. Aether flood, most landmasses got flooded, and now people live in flying cities and use the Aether currents to basically use technology, right? So, So these are like the mainstays that I definitely want to have, except for the goblins, gnomes, and halflings. I would say I will do the following. Just so people know that these are not do not exist anymore. They are dead. They are not in this setting. The orcs. The thing about the orcs is we have so little text about the orcs, but so much everything else about the orcs, right? While we know like so much about the history, but we have not updated their text there. So what we need to do is we need to revise a little bit of that. So also we can do one thing. Places, and we can take our picture, our work in progress. Give me 1 second, I need to export this quickly. Azico WIP. I'm exporting right now, and once I have it, I load it into the thing. I'm uploading. I hope it works. Last time it complained. I hope it now works. Is it Azico work in progress? Oh my god, that's way too big. How big is it? It's 3 times the size I wanted it to be. Shit. Okay. We can't load that work in progress in there. This is bad. Well, then I need to do something else with the map. Give me 1 second. Let's hope that we get it in JPEG format. It's like a little bit smaller. It's just for us to like orientate ourselves, right? Where's the Azico? And then we have work in progress. How big is it? Easy JPEG. That's why we still need JPEGs nowadays, by the way. Because of stuff like this. Come on. Ta-da. Okay. Because now we can... Oops. Now we can zoom in and stuff like that and expand. So we can do nice things like this and see the map instantly without the mapping tool. So, we need to also decide where our... Since we have like 3 main flying cities in the setting, where they are located. At least Haven, because Haven is the only one we have like expanded a little bit. Also, I still have not color coded anything. It should be definitely the most centric of the in terms of where they are. So basically, like if we have 3 flying cities, it would be wise if they were, for example, either in the Crown Lands or like mad dab in this like belt over here. But again, this can be decided at a later point. We don't need this right now. We can do this later. Let's go back to the orcs. The orcs are like my at the moment the most in need of like writing, like any writing. Because as of right now, the orcs basically don't do anything of interest except for like existing. So we know they had dynasties. We know they're boar-like, and we also know that they had the heritage war against the Kolo and the elves, which destroyed basically the dynasties. And the dynasties dissolved and basically said, okay, we live now separately from our bloodlines. The bloodlines are still important to the orcs, but they are not like the defining trait for like politics anymore. So this is just a general like how I imagine like a more boar-like orc to look like. So what do we know about orcish culture? So we know exactly, that is like the first thing I want to establish. How did they do that? So what we know is that the orcs had these dynasties. We also need to establish how did these dynasties start in the first place. That's like also one of the things we have not touched upon. So let's go into like orcish history. So how did they start out? And I think they started out very primitively and were more druidic. I think they started like this. And when the so basically they started out druidic. They were like surface dwellers, went around the lands and lived freely of that, right? Very like close to like very close bond to animals. I think like the ancient orcs were more like rangers and druids, I feel like. And during like, and I think that during all of this, they also were like very how do I say it? That orcs are very maybe potent in terms of like reproduction. That like basically, so how many like actually actual question, how many? I'm not doing this on the main monitor. I don't want to get like the stream taken down again. The old orc thing was like top tier, me getting taken down. How many babies do boars have? So piglet. Oh my god, 5 to 6 piglets per litter. So maybe orcs have high birth rates. I think a bit like they're like a bit like the Krogan from Mass Effect, if you think about it, where they have like, because right now I just realized how similar they are, right? They have like these like giant clans. Okay, they are not like elevated by another species to become like big and scientific, but and nuke themselves, but they have like high birth rates, and this gave them like gave them big community. Well, I need to do the dot system. Why does it not work anymore? Jump started. This jump started definitely like the founding of communities. So basically they were like already like very like in like big families and stuff like that, right? And then we go into the point, which is like the most interesting for the orcs at least, right? They're like these big families, and they had like they had a rigid family structure. So basically like very like classical, where like the quote unquote matriarch slash patriarch, which is like the oldest family member, is the most valued, right? Not rigid, more like conservative. So basically like what grandpa or grandma says is like the most important, or later on what dad says, right? And basically this started I'm thinking about like when do the dynasties start? Like, or the base for the dynasties, like the big families. I think this is like when it starts, right? Where it's like, okay, we have like this like family structure, and we get huge. We get like these huge families, right? Do orc alliances with other species only produce orcs? And it's the just invasive humans that give birth to orcs with them. And the major families are those that kept the bloodline pure. I think so. I think the only one... I think... how it is like with many invasive species in nature. That the orcs... Or that the humans basically, like, as an invasive species, just like drive out the other species. I mean, it's like just normal nature, right? Look at squirrels. Jesus Christ. And then with the families, I'm 100% behind that. So orc alliances with other species only produce orcs. I think they would like go into like the half orc route, which we have in Pathfinder. And you cannot, in theory, or do we say they produce orcs? I mean, it would be like a bit of karmic justice for the orcs, right? They are like the ones who are like, oh, we need to keep pure bloodlines. But if we mix with others, there's always the half orc in their bloodline. And all of a sudden, here comes Jerry the human. I would find that very funny, actually, like a bit comic. Let's do like this. You're absolutely right. Let's get first to like where they have these big families. Due to bigger numbers, communities formed around singular families. Which, due to their sheer numbers, became the leaders of townships, of villages, right? So basically, I think it makes sense that if like the families are big, they grow exponentially, right? They just have like giant litters of like these like orclings, and once they grow, they just are like potent after like we keep the no nonsense rule of everyone is adult when they're 18 right now. I don't want to get into like the entire thing with like, they are with like the elves, because the elves are like, which is why the elves die at 50. The word you are looking for is showed. Why showed? Or Piglet. Oh, yeah. Right, it's a showed, right, yeah. True. Yeah. I'm at the moment. I have like the birth rate thing on my monitor. It's like here, they have like South have so many shows. Okay, okay. I don't need Wild Pig guide right now. Please go away, Google. Also, my music stopped. Give me 1 second. I will royalty free. Synthwave. Just get us in the mood. There's like barely any like royalty free steampunk or something like that that we could play at the moment on YouTube. Doesn't matter. So I think it just makes sense that they due to the number of children this is like the next question that I wanted to answer is why I said most orcs started out druidic, because that's the way how they at least like generate food for all the orcs. The question is if we keep the high birth rates as like 5 to 6, because like boars have like a birth row, they have like 4 to 12, which is huge. We don't need 12 with an average of 5 to 6, right? But like, what about if we say they generate, which is why we have twin gods, right, as the patrons. They have like 2 children per, like, on average, like per like time they have like sex, you know. So basically, like, all orcs are basically a twin of someone else, which goes into like that entire spirituality of like, oh yeah, there's like, we have like 2 gods. I think that makes sense. Because if they have 3, oh, that's like humans having twins, right? But if they have 1, that's like a sign of bad omen. Exactly. A vast majority of births are boy plus girl to keep everything balanced. Seen as a blessing of the patrons. And we have single births are seen as a bad omen. Triplets are seen as a sign of something greater. Leader, perhaps. Just make a side note. Maybe like they think maybe that like if they have 3 kids, they have oh yeah, we have 3 kids, so that's cool. And then they are like, oh yeah, 2 of them are normal people and 1 of them is something bigger, right? One of them is a leader and 2 of them are the twins. I think that superstition will exist at some point, right? But yeah, this is like orcish start of society, and then like they start like villages, and the villages form around the families. And so now the next step of villages is, right, families ally with one another and create cities. So basically, like, the villages come together and create cities, right? And that is like this is like the next step is, of course, next step. Families form bigger bonds and become even bigger families. And these are the first dynasties. I think that is like the next logical step, right? The first dynasties are just like, yeah, villages, they become cities, and the cities are just like pulling more and more of these like smaller or like medium-sized families in, just to keep like the gene pool clean. Because of course you cannot like have like inbreeding with like only your village. You need like the other village, right? And all of a sudden you have like these big dynasties forming because of out of necessity, and not because they just wanted. Like, power is of course a part of this, and then only after they have the dynasties, they like if like the things become bigger and bigger and bigger, they find out that they are compatible with other species on the planet. Mainly elves and Colo. I think this is like the main thing. They find out that these two, the big three, like 2 of them are compatible with orcs. Nearly everyone is compatible with everyone, right? So orcs are like, you have half orcs and half elves, but then the humans come in and wreck their shit, right? That's the idea, which is why they are hated so much. But yeah. And now, and this is like the more important thing, now two types of orcish mindsets: purists and what do we call the group that are like, okay, breeding with other species is okay, and I don't care if my bloodline has a little bit of elf in it. We're the purists and the inclusionists. Yeah, this is a good name. I was like thinking like about something with liberty or liberal, but then we get into like the whole we open a political can of worms that I do not want to open. Actually, I hate self-censoring, but like I don't want to be bothered with it. Like, I would call it liberal, but then you have like a gun-toting man with a mega head saying, "Oh, liberals," and I don't want sympathies with my dictator orcs, which is sadly unavoidable. But yeah, unavoidable. And now, inclusionists see half orcs as a blessing. Purists see them as a stain on their lineage. And now we come to like the point where they get the elves. So what happens is definitely that the purists start basically like they start like inserting themselves in inclusionist structures. political structures. And that's when they start, after a while, they start a coup and enslave elves. So basically, like, in these like combined communities that were forming, they just got in there and they started to usurp them, basically, right? They usurp them and just take the elves hostage. And so you all of a sudden have like these like orcs that are like, first of all, taking the inclusionists, take them down, and have the elves as like a workforce now. And this is like cascading into the entire idea that the orcs just start taking over the elves, and after the elves, they take the Colo, because the Colo are just like smaller than the elves, or like not as magically adept, right? Decades of orcish takeover. Follow. Elves are enslaved. Gnolls follow after. When the orcs orcish society stabilized. So now we have like this idea that the gnolls and I think the Colo were living nomadic lifestyle in the yeah, I think so as well, which is why I want to do like I think we should go from this like tragic point where the orcs and the Colo were like basically friends, they were allies, and then they basically just took them over after that. Yeah. Colo, Gnolls at the time were nomadic allies. The orcs simply took over their lands, right? Now, we have now the Gnolls and the elves, and now we need basically like the I don't know if the dwarves, if we stick with like the dwarves being also orcish slaves 100%, or if they were just enemies, because where's the timeline there? Because we have like Rise of the Orc Dynasties, right? We're now here. We're now at 2000 BAF. And we have now well, that is like the Orc Dynasties, and then we have the Orc and the Elven Kingdoms, basically. They find out they can have like offspring, and then we have the Orcish Elven Wars, and the Orcs win. And now we need to think about the emancipation of the elves. So I want to have the elves, before they become vampires and they get like mortality back and they just destroy themselves, I want them to be like real dicks. I think it's funnier when the elves are like absolute pricks. So I'm thinking, because like that is what I said earlier about the Heritage War, right? With the Heritage War later on, like 800 BAF, it's like that the elves started to like also like instigate this. They're like, oh yeah, let's trick them into that. And then all of a sudden they get dragged into themselves. which is like how the Heritage War like escalated. So what about, just like as an idea, second war against the elves. And then the orcs and the elves. Elves, yeah. Elves fight, and the elves win their freedom at the cost, and this is like the next thing, at the cost of offering the orcs the goblin kingdoms and the gnomish societies. So basically, like, what they did is like they basically like that the elves basically fought for the freedom. They somehow won, but like they needed to give the orcs something in return, like something attractive, so they would stop like hunting them down over the years. So they gave them the goblins and the gnomes, right? Even though they had no choice in the matter, which leads back in my head canon, at least, which is full canon because, well, it doesn't matter. Which would lead to their guild of the gnomes and goblins being dead, and them dedicating like science and research to, like, after the Aether Flood, basically like making it up to them and reviving their species, right? That is like what the elves want to do in hindsight, or like elven leaders. So like as a redemption for later, they want to revive them. I think that is like why they have like this like strong bond to these two civilizations. The halflings, they don't give a fuck. Like, just give me 1 second. I need to quickly do a pee break. BRB in like a minute or two. Okay, coming back. Hi. I'm back. So I think that is like one of the things that we need to expand on later when we talk about gnomes and orcs and goblins. But yeah, that's how that happened, right? So that's how they emancipated themselves. Then we go into a heritage war happens. I don't want to do a rewrite on the heritage war right now, which is why I'm just linking the heritage war page. Because for the orcs, not much happens, right? Well, not much is a bit of an understatement, but emancipation of the elves, then the vampire stuff happens, and then the Age of Kingdoms happens, right? Which is like, starts with the heritage war. And then we have the, after that, we have, basically the orcs, it's a bit weird because right now the orcs do something for the better part of 800 years. And then they don't do anything for like the next, 200, right? 400 years, and then after 400 years they start getting rebelled against because they got like basically like they got stagnant, which makes sense. And then after that, after the 500 years of like losing everything, exactly, they're like decadence and complacency. They lose everything in like the 500 years of the heritage war, which is like the main reason why they lost, because like everyone was like, okay, they don't know anything, right? This is like the main reason, gradually, because the gnomes and goblins, they were like the guys who were like doing everything, right? They were like enslaved, but they were like the minds behind everything that the orcs did. So when they like rebelled, they did not have anyone who had like the skill to make like to understand how the war machines are, first of all, maintained, and second of all, what crazy shit the goblins and gnomes did. Like they knew every secret passage, they knew every like single thing, right? And that's how they freed themselves. Again, I did not pull in, I pulled in the dwarves, but I'm not sure if I want to have the dwarves in the heritage war. Did the dwarves even care for the heritage war? Did they even fight? Like, did they work for the orcs is the question. Did we ever define that, how their relationship was? I think not, right? Nope. This is like all we have. Plus like the little thing I added from you from like 2 days ago. So this is like also a very big like question mark right now, right? After the heritage war, I can see that, right? Because like pre Aether Flood, they were like how we imagined dwarves. They were like the craftsmen and like miner types, right? They were like just like handymen for the most part. And then like after that they repurposed to being like these architects and and machinists, right? Like engineering became their suit. I imagine they murked themselves to the orcs to fix and work for more machines they did not understand, otherwise selling raw materials to rebelling factions. Yeah, I think so as well. You know what? Let's put that into the heritage war. That's very dwarvy. This goes into what? Meanwhile, the dwarves worked for both sides. maintaining. I cannot write. Maintaining orcish equipment for them while selling material to the rebelling factions. I think that is like a wise thing. And now we write it into the dwarves as well, because otherwise I forget it. No, this is reproduction, maybe insectoids, group of dwarves. It would fit here a bit. During the Heritage War. Link that. Heritage War, thank you. During the Heritage War, the dwarves worked for both sides, maintaining orcish equipment while selling materials to the rebels. Okay. Just keeping that for the time being. And as you can see, we are getting like more and more links in. This is like, for at least for my process, it's normal that I start with like a few things and then all of a sudden I get like link, making like a little wiki. It will be like also very interesting because I want to put this in like a readable format, especially for like as a handout, because this is like a complete homebrew thing, right? So like you will definitely need a I think that would be like one of the points, right? So what I think is that the elves, again, like going back to the Heritage War, we have a link here. Boop. So what I think is like in these 500 years, right? Which is why I said also earlier, it's gradually, right? This is like very important. I will do it also in a different color because this is like something we need to always think about. That there was never like a very like an official end to this, right? The quote-unquote official end was when like the current emperor or empress of the dynasty, like from the main dynasty, which we have not named yet, stepped down. That's like the only like reason why they say, okay, it was officially over. And now like basically the start is okay, elves were like scared shitless because the orc dynasties were still there even after they freed themselves and got to the crown lands. And now they were like, okay, how do we get everyone else to rebel so the orcs are just like smashed apart, right? Because the elves, with like the 50 years of like lifetime, they were like kind of fucked. Let's be real. Like living 50 years as a species who before lived like for hundreds of years. It's like, imagine you would live like as a human basically until 20 and then you're dead. Like that makes you a bit like nervous, let's say it like that, especially for like such a long-lived race. I can see them like not doing much reproducing, and all of a sudden they have like a little bit of an elder problem on their hands where they need to reproduce, even against like a little bit against their will, because they don't have the drive, but they need to, otherwise they just flat out go extinct. So elves riled on some orcs, and those freed the goblins and gnomes, right? Those is like the starting point. Now they get dragged into the war. Big turning point. I do that in the next line, right? Turning point. Enough favors and money was collected to make the dwarves turn against the orcs. It should also be like a very, very important thing that orcs get reintegrated into society as an equal, quote unquote, right? There's like we need to have that in, because like the rebels, of course, they were like treated better, but like ex-dynasty orcs that were like fighting for like oppression, they're like definitely like oppressed against them. Like they're like I think about like what happened after the Second World War. Even though we had like many like evil German men, I cannot say the word, otherwise the YouTube word gets taken down. But like evil German men, all of a sudden disappeared, right? It's kind of funny actually how this happened. If you go like deep into that, where it's like, oh, they were like all working for the Third Reich, right? And then like after that was over, suddenly like so many people were like not talked about anymore. Like basically the people who were like the poster boys for like the organizations, they got into trouble, and many other people like officers, or like the small people who did like were like useful for rebuilding, those were like kept under the regs. So I can see that something similar happening to the orcs, though we have not written the orcs to be like absolutely like they are slavers and they are bad. I just don't want to write them like the evil party in Germany, you know. I don't want to. I think that goes a bit too far. Also, it's like too much of my German bleeding into that, because I feel like many like German fiction goes into, yo, this is like very Third Reich, but wait, this is like in another setting, you know. So I don't want to get too much into that. I think there's like enough of that in this setting already. But yeah. So back to the orcs. So orcs lose the heritage wars. I keep the link in so we don't copy and paste the text now. After the heritage war, the orcs reform into two groups. Those who wanted to hide and continue living in dynasties, or those who wanted to live a normal life in the newly formed societies, right? We say integral in the rebuilding process. This is like very important. They should be like very important to the rebuilding, because in theory orcs are strong, right? I think we keep like the bovine strength. They are bovine, right? Is a pig bovine? I think so. Yeah, right. No, it's not. It's, yeah, that's cows. Biological family of Swede. I don't know how to say that. Whatever. Fuck. What is this? How do you speak that? Dude, usually you have like how to pronounce it, except for this. Pigs, hogs, and swine. Yeah. So doesn't matter. Why did my OBS? Porcine. Yeah. Use your heart. Anyways, so we keep that strength. I think they have inherently. I think we keep that definitely in like the baseline of what these people are, and like their will to like to exist. So like we keep like stuff like orc ferocity. I don't want to like rewrite 20 feats. I think that's at the start a bit much. I think what we should, the only thing I want to touch on every heritage in the rules would be the standard, like, of course they have like the standard ability scores, but like the special ability scores per heritage, right? I think that's the only thing I would like redo in general. For example, I hate that humans are one of the most, oh frick, we have like one of the best endurance, and like actually like we're like one of the best runner and walking species on the planet, because we can walk and run for ages. And when we are like, I don't know why we don't have humans with constitution bonus. It just makes sense. Like in theory, on like long distance, we outrun a horse. It's like that. That's how much like actually like yeah, doesn't matter. Anyway, they're integral to the rebuilding process. They continue their culture and spirit. I think we did that right with the religion. They accept their lot in life easier, and take the role they are born into more serious. So this is like that, right? This is like just the general thing. I think we established that with the gods. Faith gravitated away from the old gods to the patron deities. I cannot write deities to Jesus Christ. This is what they do at that point, right? So now we're rebuilding. Now we're rebuilding, and we're like post Heritage War. And now, after post Heritage War, we definitely should go into Aether Flood, right? Which would be the next big step for them, if I remember correctly. Because after that, right, Project Aether, it runs past them, right? Because it's gnomes and goblins that are doing Project Aether. And then like in 50 BAF, Project Aether is officially presented. We should have first Aether powered ships, because I have like one thing, 49, like a year later, definitely first official mapping of the mirror belt. Because that is like the mirror belt was not mapped up to this point, right? Then we go into first Aether Railway, we go into Aether Constructs, network of pipes, uses power source. So we have like the refinement as well. I did not post that in here, but we should color this in. Autumn Flower, the first Aether Bomb. Then we have destructive capabilities optimized. Then we have the hand, right? Yeah, they want. This is like 10 BAF, but this is like unofficial, right? That the first Aether Bomb was done to basically nuke the remaining Orc dynasties that are like, no, we want to keep the dynasties going. Then like Mirabelle testing, and after that we have the hand, Zahando, Kaiko Island, and then we have Aether Flood, and then we are in post-Aether territory. So what do we do with the Orcs in the post-Aether? We do this. So not an important player during Project Aether. I think we should write that in, just to keep that in mind, that there were not many Orcs, because they were like many other things were like planned against the Orcs still. And then we have Aether Flood happens and Orcs get decimated. I think the Orcs should like reduce like a lot in like population, just to get like on the level of the other two main players. And now we have the next thing. After the Metropolis, is Haven and X and Y, which we have not named now. I want to go into them a little bit, how they differ. From Haven. Get launched. Many Orcs retreated there. While others looked for safety in the mountains. Rediscovering hidden dynasties, right? So they are like I'm 100% of the opinion that they go like somewhere up the mountains, and all of a sudden, whoops, there was like a dynasty that we forgot about, that we thought was dead. They're like hiding here. We should also go into one thing that is very important, actually, which we do not have on the timeline. I need to know the precise name again, because I forgot about it to like note that down. Where is it? Where's the dynasty? Orong. I was like Orong or Olong, and I was like, no, I'm not calling it Oolong, right? I'm not like putting Dragon Ball in this. The Orong dynasty. I like Garden and Remedy. That are good names, yeah. I like Garden and Remedy. I didn't want to... I wanted something with like Eden, but then I didn't want to get Eden because of like the religiousness, but Garden and Remedy is good. I like them. Let's take them as like the work in progress. Garden I want to keep. Remedy is a good name. And you know what I want? I want probably Remedy to be the biggest shithole out of the three. I think that would be the funniest, right? Remedy sounds like something out of a dystopian game or book that is like, oh yeah, it sounds nice and it turns out to be a shithole. Humans appear in the hidden dynasty of the Orong family. Get enslaved and free themselves during the next decades. This is like important to the orcs as well. I think we should like include, by the way, that the humans, I think that is like very, very important. Due to vicinity, right? Is that the right? Is it the right way to write it? Yeah, vicinity, right? I'm stupid. Vicinity, not vicinity. Jesus Christ. Sorry for like being bad at grammar today. Due to vicinity, human prejudice against orcs is apparent. While orcs, on the other hand, respect humans for living in and freeing themselves from the Orong. I think that is like something like where it's like the orcs respect that, the free orcs respect that the humans did that on themselves. They just said, okay, you know what? We don't know what the fuck is going on with these other people out there, but we free ourselves through like cleverly like manipulating and reproducing with the orcs. How about we like the orcs are dicks in general. These orcs are nicer, but they were like still dicks in general. And the orcs are like, dude, they are cool. The humans are like, they did that on their own. The other people needed to like reunite for that. I mean, it's only one dynasty, but hey, right? I think it's like a I feel like this is like a bit, if you think about it, the anime protagonist and the villain turned rival, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, no. They don't love each other, but they have a respect for one another. Even though the humans, again, there were like many humans who did get into like orcish bloodlines. Okay. This is where we leave the orcs at right now. We at least like a little bit more like info, right? Now the Colo, we have like a little bit of Colo text, not as much as like the elves. The elves are like, they have like I don't know how many pages is that? A few. The dwarves, oh my god, the dwarves. We have not done too much about the dwarves right now, but we go into, we do one thing. We need a new page, right? And we call that Metropolises. and put Haven in there. And then we add, just so I remember these for the time being, page, we call it garden. Metropolis number 2. And then we have the last one, which would be page remedy. Not remify, remedy. And then we say, I don't know why it doesn't work, Metropolis number 3. So now we have Haven, Garden, and Remedy. These are the main 3, right? There's like other smaller ones, but these should be the main 3 where people live. And if I look at the map, I'm thinking about like if I think about it like properly, I can see like Haven being around here somewhere, right? Or because this is like the most central out of all of the continents. Maybe like down here even. And then like we have like Garden and Remedy like probably here and here. So you have like a good triangle, and then like smaller metropolises like around this area. If we want again like Haven to be like a center thing, or they got Haven into the mirror belt. I'm also very willing to do that, but like it's like here. But then you have like the problem if for example you take, because Haven at the moment is the most established, and you say okay, we have a thing where we're like, this is Haven, right? And you want to play a campaign there, and you want to go to the surface area. You would literally have one piece, and I don't want that, because I think the most interesting part is if they are like where old cities were, where like old like capitals were, because that gives like the option to explore like the landscape and those ruins that were like destroyed by the Aether Flood. I can also see Haven being in the Crownlands. Being in the Crownlands, and then like the other ones being left and right. Right, and this up here not being one of the areas where like one of the main 3 are. Or we do Crownlands like these 3. But yeah, it's like what we need to find at some point. Good. We have done a little bit of orcs. I dread because we're like at it for like 3 hours nearly again. It's like time flies when we do this, and I don't want to stream for forever, like half an hour or so, and then I want to head off actually. No, this is the wrong setting. I don't know why it shows everything here, but sure. We want to... What is something we can do in a short amount of time that does the most work? I think this one, right? We can define the mirror belt. Okay, Kaiko Island. Let's define Kaiko Island, because Kaiko Island is the start of the Aether Flood. So Kaiko Island, we keep that. Small island around the size of... What size is this? Yeah, around the size of Haven. Sure. First testing ground of the hand. Mainly inhabited by wildlife, definitely. Like, it's just like, it's basically like some like island chain thing that they just try to blow up, right? Just to test, like, basically like trying to test like the atom bomb. Inhabited by wildlife. No civilizations to be found except for a few. I would say, what is our untouched civilization that they did not know really, well, that they did know existed, but is like basically like one of those like civilizations you find nowadays that had never had any contact with electronics and stuff like that. Is it lizard folk? Do we pull the easy lizard folk thing? Izoki. So the red people, right? The blob red people. I think some Izoki were abducted. I think they adopted some Izoki. Yeah, I wanted to add those to the setting anyways. I'm like literally playing with the idea. I don't want to give the fucking Manhattan Project midgets a chance, right? I don't want to give them a chance. I think that the elves want to revive them out of pity, but not because they want to, 100% because they were like good guys. Is like a nice sentiment, right? But I was also thinking, what if the Aether mutated back in the day, the half, like after the Aether flood, they mutated one of the species, or even like the halflings into Izoki, right? Which would not work if they are like basically like a tribal species. But for the time being, they are abducted. Let's say it like this: they're abducted, and yeah, Leshies would also be fine, right? I'm like open to the Izoki. You said that with the Izoki, and now I'm like, okay, what about it, right? Because again, I don't need the halflings. Like, and not dissing like hobbits, but I don't need that plotline necessarily. It would be like kind of interesting to say, okay, they are, but also not, you know? Let's keep the Izoki. I think the Leshies are like mutated. Like, I think the Leshies would be more like something mutated, right? Because like basically like familiars that gain consciousness would be like very in line for magic mutation, right? The island was used as a testing ground for smaller scale Aether projects due to its nearby Aether veins. So, And now, when the hand was tested, previously undiscovered aether vein on the island was hit. Definitely that. Which reached into the planet's core. Creating we would need to define the to tie it back to the orcs and druidic practice. I'm thinking about it right now because I feel like it would be like kinda funny. Well, not funny, right? Apocalypse is not funny, but it would be like a bit like going back to the karmic justice. When the gnomes and goblins were like testing the Manhattan Project, right? Testing the hand. And they were like, oh yeah, there's like so many veins nearby where you have like, where you can like use the aether to build projects. And they abducted the Yosoki from there just to like do stuff with them. To like do like research on them. It would be interesting if they actually nuke the place because they are like, oh yeah, we're done here. We've like used all the resources. This is like useless. And there was like an aether vein hiding that they did not know about because it was very well hidden or something like that. And they hit that, and that does the chain reaction into the Earth's core and making the aether flood happening by like using so much, like basically like using an energy surge and thus like chain reacting up to the surface. I don't know if we do a druidic ley line. It would be interesting to have a like ley line there. The question is, how would the ley line interact with the aether, right? That would be a very interesting thing, yeah. We have not talked about how they discovered those, right? Let's go back. We go into aether. Goblins and gnomes discovered aether through following orcish maps with ley lines drawn in. And on Kaiko, because nobody was there, right? Because they needed like aether to get there, they could not have a map. So they tried to like track the ley lines themselves and missed like that one, which reached to that like aether vein. I think that makes sense. I think that is like logical. Do I write that in the aether plan? lane line properly and hit an aether vein through that. At the time where the aether flood happened, yes. And they could, again, like with the time with Kaiko Island and the aether flood, they could not have where is it? Yeah. They could not have gotten there because, again, like no, it's not in here, it's in the mirror belt, right? Mirror belt. Because like you could not go there properly without the aether technology, right? Good idea. Orcish leaders tried to warn the spiritual. Tried to warn the instigating civilizations, but were ignored. After the incident, orcs were given more political power again. Political equality. Okay. Let's go back to Kaiko so we don't forget that. Robert, Kaiko, let's go. So, chain reaction that started the aether flood. Yay! And we're all back to the thing, which the setting will be named after because it's the easiest thing I could have picked. So, yeah. This happened due to gnomes and goblins misreading ley lines, ley line maps, and ignoring orcish warnings. I think we don't need much more about Kaiko Island, right? It's like at the moment it's just like Isoki lived there, they were taken from there, so that's why they still exist. And stuff is happening, right? And for all intents and purposes, I know we started a bit earlier, but I don't want to do like everything forever because I don't know if I want to start writing on these fucks. Let's do a quick write-up, right? They started after continuous escalation both factions started working on the hand project to quell any remaining Orc dynasties. I wrote them always like with like capital letters, so we keep that. Testing on Kaiko Island. Link that. Boom. What is this shortcut? Okay. Control K. This is like something I can work with. Kaiko Island. No, I did not. I want to. Right. Thank you. Testing on Kaiko Island went well until they decided to test the bomb at its full power. They hit an aether vein. Aether flood gets started, and due to their secrecy and living below Earth, they were the first to get eradicated by the relentless Aether rushing towards the planet's surface. So this is like what happened to them, right? Halflings. Quickly doing the halflings, just step by step. Peaceful living. Underground species. What do we make of the halflings? I like it better if they were horrible little monsters in the past. You mean the halflings themselves or the gnomes? Because the gnomes and goblins are definitely horrible. We can make the halfling... okay. The halflings, okay. How about we... What do we do with them? I see a theme where everyone is like actually a giant asshole, and now, yeah, isolationist, right? Isolationist civilization. I always forget, is it Z or S? I think it's S, right? No, it's Z. Civili, right? Living underground. What were they doing underground? What were they doing with like... I'm thinking about something else. said. I was thinking about like what are that? Wait, give me 1 second. I've okay. If we go with the animal theming, right? I was thinking about the same thing if they had Aether before everyone else. That's why they were like secret, were keeping it secret. I was thinking about like if the halflings were like something like bat-like folk. Are natural enemies of the dwarves. But bats don't eat termites, so no. Let's do it. They could be ants. No, just kidding. But I am with you on like their subspecies. I think that this fits very well that they're like a subspecies of dwarf. That they're basically our Durga, you know. Collective subconscious is more evolved and intensified. They lack size and physical power, however. And now we get into like they had Aether technology before the gnomes and goblins had Project Aether. Before it started Project Aether. Exactly, I'm thinking about that as well. Though they specialized on military and fortification rather than quality of life and later explosives. Old halfling blueprints. I think that is like an idea. Old halfling blueprints were found and reinterpreted into modern firearms, right? We said that gunpowder is still existing, but it was replaced by Aether, and I can imagine like an Aether flintlock or something like that, or the equivalent of an Aether flintlock, being developed by the halflings, and in the Darkened Age, where they tried to rebuild everything and found stuff, they found a few blueprints of the halflings, and that's how they got the firearms back. So basically, like everyone, like we have like this bastardized Aether tag, which is like halfling inspired, but also goblin and gnome inspired, and then like of course like the like existing society does research on like reinforcing that a little bit, right? But they don't have like the biggest advancements that the halflings had, because that is like all gone and lost, right? Very territorial. Did they take prisoners, or did they just did they just murder you? I think they murdered you, right? And the captives were like experimented on. Like I see them as like if we want to make them horrible, that's like the easiest one, right? Captives were experimented on everyone unfit was killed. Every invader seen as unfit for testing was killed. Why do I see aperture science in this very much? I don't know. Do we need more of the halflings at the moment? In theory not, right? We know they're like assholes and they died. And basically some weaponry is like based on their blueprints. I think these are what we keep right now. I would do the following. So we had unexpectedly yesterday 10 hours of Pokemon. I know that in my schedule there's like Wednesday game day, but we have also Friday this week because I don't have a Pathfinder session on Friday. In theory on Saturday I have time as well, but we need to see if that is true or not, which is why I did not pinpoint that down. I make myself like a few thoughts, note a few things down, because I will head off then, because we have like 8:30. We start an hour early, and I want to keep like at least like these at like 3 hours. Otherwise, we just are not productive anymore. I would see if we write on Wednesday as well. I will see if we do that, or if we play actual Pokemon. Depending on which, yeah. Tomorrow is no stream. I need tomorrow to do other stuff. Actually, a lot of other stuff. Wednesday, again, will be a stream, and we can stream a bit longer because I need to get up later on Thursday. So, yeah. I would say I'm heading off now. Thank you for the writing help. Again, like for the ideas back and forth and all. We got still a lot of things done in 3 hours. It's great. Like again, we get a lot of writing done, and we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of theory. Like in theory, 50 heritages, right? Heritage P2E. Or Ancestry, right? Is it Ancestry? Ancestry. I had a list of ancestries the other day. Wait a second, I will quickly see. Character creation, ancestries. Ancestry table. So there is a total of exactly 50 right now. We have exactly 50 ancestries. And we need to filter out which one we want, which ones we want and which ones we don't, right? For example, the streaks, which I said I want to have them be a bit more common as like people who live between the cities and like live on the mountains. I think they are like also very important, but we get to that next time. Same with Izoki. I think next time we do Izoki and streaks, or we do the other 2 cities and place them on the map and say there, 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 and there. But yeah, I will head off now. I see you around. See you on Wednesday, and we will see if we play Pokemon or do a bit more of this because I like writing. It's very fun. So see you around, and goodbye.